Wadden TV presents the significance of today in our history. Wadden TV presents the significance of today in our history.
This day in history, 10th October, in the year 680 Al-Hussein ibn, and his followers killed at Karbala by army of Yazid, the Umayyad Caliph, on the way to Kufa.
After the fourth Caliph Ali was assassinated in 661, a power vacuum emerged, leading to Muawiyah assuming role as Caliph, despite opposition from part of the Ummah who wanted Hassan, son of Ali, who was the grandson of the Prophet, as the Caliph. To avoid further bloodshed after years of conflict, Hassan signed a peace treaty with Muawiyah. This treaty stipulated that Muawiyah would not appoint a successor after him. In the year 670, Hassan was assassinated, leaving his brother Hussein to take on his duties. The treaty was breached when Muawiyah named his son Yazid his successor in 680, beginning the Umayyad dynasty. Yazid spread his power through corruption, bribery, and the use of violence. To legitimize his rule, Yazid demanded allegiance from Hussein. Hussein refused, as Yazid was openly corrupt and known to be brutal. Hussein was forced to flee Medina under threat of imprisonment and assassination. He had received thousands of letters from Kufa, Iraq, pledging support for an uprising against Yazid. Of his refusal to pay allegiance, he said, "I am ready to fight for the sole goal of seeking the reform of the Ummah of my grandfather, the Prophet of Allah. I want to enjoin good and forbid evil." Hussein first went to Mecca for Hajj, but then left to avoid violence and preserve the sanctity of the holy city. Hussein departed with his family and companions to Kufa. In response to the threat of rebellion from the Kufans, Yazid dispatched a governor to Kufa to quash dissent. This led to thousands of Kufans withdrawing their support under threat of violence. As they approached Kufa, Hussein's caravan was intercepted by a battalion of Yazid's army led by a man named Hur al-Riyahi. A greater army which numbered in the thousands, led by Umar bin Sa'ad, joined him and surrounded Hussein's camp in what is now known as Karbala in modern-day Iraq. The army cut off access to water for Hussein and his family, leaving the men, women and children to suffer from days of thirst in Iraq's blistering desert heat. The army demanded allegiance from Hussein, threatening him with death. Despite all the odds, Hussein refused to back down. On the night before the battle, Hussein told his companions that they were free to leave, but they pledged to stand beside him in the face of certain defeat. The following morning, on the 10th of Muharram, known as the day of Ashura, Hussein delivered a powerful speech, reminding the opposition that he was still the grandson of the Prophet and that he still wished to leave. Moved by Hussein's speech, Hur abandoned Ibn Sa'ad's army and joined Hussein's. The battle commenced, with Hussein's 70-odd companions facing off against an army of what many historians number to be 30,000. The companions of Hussein fought group by group and were martyred on the battlefield. Eventually, Hussein was left with a handful of remaining family members. They too were killed. Hussein, now with no one beside him, pleaded with the enemy forces for water for his 6-month-old baby. The enemy responded by firing a fatal arrow at the infant, killing Hussein's child in his arms. Hussein buried the child and bid farewell to the women and children of his camp. He fiercely charged into the battlefield, where, after fighting valiantly, eventually fell from his horse and was surrounded by the enemy soldiers. The grandson of the Prophet was brutally attacked from all sides and beheaded.
In the year 1845, Naval School, now called U.S. Naval Academy, opens at Annapolis. Year 1871, the Great Chicago Fire is finally extinguished after 3 days, leaving approximately 300 dead, 100,000 homeless, and costing $222 million in damage.
Everybody's helpless.
When they saw how red the sky was, they said that it was Judgment Day.
The city was a landscape of utter devastation.
An immigrant who shouldered the blame.
She was a woman, she was an immigrant, and I think it was so easy to pick somebody like that.
Catherine O'Leary becomes a myth. and the city embraces that myth.
A city determined to rise from the ashes.
Chicago will rise again. There's a sense that this fire can't stop us. We are destined to become even bigger and better of a city than we were before.
The Great Chicago Fire. When the people of Chicago woke up the morning of October 10th, 1871, their city was unrecognizable. A third of them were homeless. Nearly 300 had died. One survivor wrote, "Everything is gone. The whole city is in grief."
People are terrified. People have lost everything. People are desperate. There was utter devastation. What can be done? Will Chicago emerge? What would happen?
But no one felt the devastation of the Great Chicago Fire like Catherine O'Leary. The fire had started in her barn. A successful dairy owner, O'Leary claimed she was asleep when the blaze erupted.
I was in bed, myself and my husband and 5 children when this fire commenced. I guess it was my husband got outside the door and he ran back to the bedroom and said, "Kate, the barn is afire."
Yet even before the ground had cooled, a local newspaper accused O'Leary of an unimaginable crime, that she started the fire that destroyed her city.
I would imagine she would just feel despair. I mean, not only have you lost everything, but now people think that you've done this.
The fire did start in Catherine O'Leary's barn, but the truth about what happened that night would be wildly distorted for a century and a half.
I just feel so badly. Her life was ruined. I feel kind of a responsibility to get the story straight, to get the story out, and make people aware of the fact that she really had nothing to do with it.
The Great Chicago Fire revealed fatal flaws in a city that just a few months earlier appeared unstoppable. It had risen from a muddy fur trading post of 100 residents to a metropolis of 300,000 in just 40 years.
It attracted entrepreneurs, innovators, people who were looking for ways to make a quick buck or a not so quick buck.
With its prime location between Lake Michigan and the Mississippi, Chicago soon supplanted St. Louis as the capital of the West.
In the year 1920, Indian Bill Wams-Gans makes first unassisted World Series triple play.
A feat that happened in the World Series of 1920. Bill had said this many times about that accomplishment. Well, funny thing, I played in the big leagues for 13 years, 1914 through 1926. And the only thing that anybody seems to remember is that once I made an unassisted triple play in a World Series. Many don't even remember what team I was on, or the position I played, or anything. Just Wams-Gans and unassisted triple play. You'd think I was born on the day before and died on the day after.
1970 Fiji was granted its independence. As reported by Bernadette Young from Fiji, Fiji was officially granted independence on the 10th of October 1970, after 96 years of British colonial rule.
Her Majesty, the Queen, has asked me to read the following message to you. My chiefs and peoples of Fiji, on this historic occasion, I send to you all my warmest congratulations. On the 10th of October, 1874, a document was signed at Levuka, whereby your ancestors, and in particular the great chief Thakumbau, the Vunivalu of Bau, ceded to my great-great-grandmother the rule and governance of your islands.
On the same day in 1874, the deed of cession was signed by King Seru Apenisa Kekabau to commence British rule in Fiji.
In return for the protection which the Crown could afford you. Since that day, there have been many changes in the world. but there has always been mutual faith and confidence between Fiji and Britain in peace and war. This relationship has stood the test of time and will, I believe, endure into the future. With independence, your leaders assume new burdens and will have greater responsibilities to discharge. I am confident that if you continue to seek solutions to future problems in the same spirit in which you have faced and overcome those of the past, the years ahead will be bright and prosperous. As head of the Commonwealth, I also take pride in welcoming Fiji to membership of our unique international fellowship. I am especially glad that I can be represented among you today. This is a token of the affectionate regard in which we hold Fiji. May God bless you all. I've now been asked to give the constitutional instruments of independence of Fiji to the Prime Minister.
Uzingo matikumandana kamnanga Naisul soli waturanga may waleb may buwana ranandi Randini viti kay Britania Soli soli ba ngolay tuyani Napunwa turango viti. Your Royal Highness, on behalf of all the people of the independent Dominion of Fiji, I accept these constitutional documents with sincere gratitude and humble pride. I thank you most sincerely for the gracious message you have brought to us from Her Majesty the Queen. Our links with the British Crown are long and treasured ones, and we all have affectionate and happy memories of Her Majesty's visits and of those of other members of the royal family over the years. We look forward to maintaining and strengthening these links and send warm greetings to Her Majesty. Nothing that is happening today can change the warm feelings of our people of Fiji for the Crown, the United Kingdom, and its peoples. We have been too closely associated over the years, in good times and bad. And from the very outset of our steps on the path of independence, we have been firmly set on joining the Commonwealth. But today is a proud day for us all. For today we assume the control of our own destinies and take on full adult responsibilities after a long period of tutelage. But we do not only take the responsibility for ourselves, we take it on for each other. We are a community of races with different cultures, customs, and languages. But the things that unite us far outnumber those in which we differ. Above all, there is our fixed joint determination to build a strong, united Fiji, rich in its diversity and tempered with tolerance, goodwill, and understanding. Given a happy continuance of these conditions, and we must all contribute positively to them, I am confident that Fiji can show the world an example of harmony and progress out of all proportions to its size. And as we enter this new era, I pray for God's guidance and blessing on the independent Dominion of Fiji and all our people.
Prince of Wales handing over the constitutional instruments of independence of Fiji to the late Ratu Sir Kamasese Mara, Fiji first Prime Minister. And Tui Neo, both the cession of control and independence are celebrated among Fijians.
The Social Plug has a look at Fiji's first and Fiji's 50th Independence Day celebrations.
Nation of Fiji is situated in the shimmering South Pacific between Hawaii and Australia. 2/3 of Fiji's 330 islands are uninhabited, making it one of the most unspoiled places on the planet. Fiji's jagged reefs and warrior culture kept European explorers and traders at bay for centuries. The result is a society that's preserved its communal traditions and deep connections to the land and sea. Today, Fiji is one of the friendliest places on earth. The Fijian greeting Bula means life and good health. You'll hear it within minutes of arriving, and before long, you'll be calling it out with equal gusto. The main island is Vitilevu. This is home to 85% of Fiji's population, which consists mostly of Melanesian and Indian peoples. A 2.5-hour drive from Nadi International Airport is Fiji's capital, Suva. Wander the streets filled with colonial architecture, browse the markets, or simply hang out with locals by the sleepy harbor. From Suva, head west along the fabulous Coral Coast. This 50-mile stretch of beaches and bays is fringed by a coral reef that literally touches the shoreline. No need for dive boats here. Just pull on a face mask, step from your resort into the water, and discover why Fiji is known as one of the world's great snorkeling and diving destinations. Fiji's main island offers plenty of inland adventures too. Take in the scents of the Fiji Spice Gardens, zip line through the forest canopy, or climb aboard a 4-wheel drive for a Highlands adventure tour. A trip into Fiji's rugged interior provides a great window into the lives of the Fijian people, who open their classrooms, homes, and hearts to visitors. When you're ready to explore Fiji's smaller islands, head to Denarau, just a 15-minute drive from Nadi Airport. Denarau's marina is the gateway to 2 of Fiji's most popular getaways, the Mamanuca and Yasawa island groups. Getting to the islands is easy, but requires just a little forward planning to ensure you make your transfers. The only hard part is deciding which islands to visit. In Fiji, they have a saying, each bay its own wind. And this is certainly true of its islands. While some islands cater to all tastes, others are tailored to specific types of travelers. Situated in the Mamanutha Marine Park is tiny Beachcomber Island, known as the Party Island. Also in the Mamanuthas, float away into a world of total relaxation at Malolo Island's Liku Liku Resort. For those traveling without children, Liku Liku offers a range of sanctuaries perfect for connecting with that someone special. Nearby, Castaway Island is the perfect place to spend quality time with family and to watch your children rediscover the natural world. Just to the north of the Mamanuthas lay the Asawa Group, a chain of 20 island jewels. The twice-daily catamarans from Denarau take between 3 to 4 hours to reach the Asawas, but the journey from island to island is half the fun. Life here is about as unhurried as it gets. Wander the paths and hilly trails between villages. Glide with gentle giants. Explore beaches where the only footprints will be your own. There are also plenty of short adventures available from Port Denarau. Cruise out to tiny Tivua to sample the best of island life in just one day. Or hoist sail aboard a coral cat and explore the pristine marine environment of the West Coast and beyond. Fiji is a paradise for fishermen too. Join a charter and you'll soon be reeling in delicious reef fish for dinner. Fijians love music. Everywhere you go, you'll hear the heartfelt sound of singing and guitar. But if there's one thing Fijians adore more than music, it's children and family. And it's that sense of family and belonging that will soon be extended to you. Bula, welcome to Fiji. Welcome to life.
The 10th of October 1992, the Vidyasagar Setu, the second bridge across the Hooghly River, was inaugurated. As evening turns into night in Kolkata, a streak of light dashes across the Hooghly River, connecting the West Bengal capital to the industrial city of Howrah. The lights mark the length of the Vidyasagar Setu, India's longest cable-stayed bridge and one of modern Kolkata's defining structures. It was inaugurated on October 10, 1992.